Welcome back to Kibble Data Science channel. This is Sunday evening, December 20th, Sunday evening, Monday evening, not know which one it is, Monday evening maybe? Sunday evening, December 27th here in Central Ohio. I want to send a word of thanks out to all 22 of my Swedish viewers who saw my last COVID-19 analysis report on Sweden. I appreciate every one of you guys and gals. I'd also appreciate it if you would continue to share the link to this report today with your friends and family. Post it on Facebook, post it on Instagram, whatever social media platform you use. Take the link I'm about to give you from today's Sweden COVID-19 report for Sweden and share it, okay? Let's just come back over here, get rid of this here. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is pretty simple. Okay, open up a report here for Sweden. Just a brief note about the data I'm using today comes from. Let's get rid of all this because this is all old news. Okay, here we are. The data for today's report comes confident of ourworldindata.org, I think it is. But today also comes from the Johns Hopkins University data on the Our World in Data site. So the data itself comes from Johns Hopkins University. Let's just go ahead and update the date stream for here. Let's just change this to 50. Okay. Let's just go ahead. Let's start the report. Let's go ahead and load a couple of libraries, which we need. Load some data. You can also see here, this is, I'm calculating a 14-day moving average for both cases and deaths. These numbers, by the way, are daily cases, daily deaths, not as opposed to cumulative totals. Okay. So let's do a look at the daily cases. I got the true daily number here. Then I'm plotting the 14-day moving average down below. So here's the actual plot here, but this volatility doesn't really do us a lot of good there. So let's take a look over here. So this actually gives us a little better idea of the fit of the data, what the data is actually doing. You can see Sweden has a continuing increase in cases on a daily basis. Let's take a look at daily deaths now. Same thing. It's once again, you can see the basic shape here for deaths. Deaths are climbing back up to, on average, close to 150. You can see here, if we look at a 14-moving average, it's actually only showing a high of about 75 on average. So basically, you think of this number here as being the average number of deaths for the last 7 days is 75. It's about, let's say 75. Okay, because this isn't an actual data number. This is the average for the previous 7 days. So it says now let's look at some weekly averages. So this is weekly. This is weekly cases. You can see you do have a continued climb up here in cases, with ASIC being the weekly high for cases in Sweden. This is, well, if this is today, if this is today's numbers, then this isn't. Depends. It's hard to tell. This may be last week's numbers, or it could be this week's numbers. If this is last week's number, then this is quite good because you actually see this is the lowest number of cases in 1, 2. Well, let's just see some. This is weekly new cases. Let's just take a look at the last thing here. Weekly new cases. So this is for 12/20. Okay. So this is for last Sunday. So that would be this week here. Okay, good. Because it's the week one Sunday to Saturday. So that means this number here is for last week. All right. So that means last week was the lowest number of cases in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, which is very good. Deaths. Well, you can also see that, well, deaths are still up to high by 175. This does still represent the lowest number of cases in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Okay, so let's count that as being good news. Let's count this as being the beginning of a new trend downward, back down in cases, maybe even a final trend downward. Now let's take a look at some monthly numbers here. So this is December. You can see December's cases are the most cases so far in Sweden, and the deaths with about a week to go, with 1, 2, 3, with 4 more days to go, will probably the deaths will probably. Unfortunately, there's a pretty good chance that the December deaths will be the second most deaths so far, because it looks like it could possibly pass this number here. Okay, that's Sweden and the EU. So we're going to now compare Sweden's with the. So we'll compare Sweden with a similar population size to other countries. So we're going to be comparing Sweden to other EU countries that have a population between 9 million and 12 million. Okay. In this case, those are Belgium, Czechia, Greece, Sweden, Hungary, and Austria. Okay. So what this tells us is that Sweden has the second most cases for countries with a population between 9 and 12 million, with Czechia being the worst at 100,000 cases so far. Okay, that's because this one isn't being done anymore. That's what it is. There we go. Total deaths, total cases by day. What does this tell us here? Okay, so this allows us to visually compare Sweden's cases with the other countries of a similar size, and everybody is suffering from a lot of cases. Okay, here note also that this x-axis changes depending on the plot. So we have to look here and say, well, this is, let's say, 8,000 deaths, 8,000 cases, and this is only 5,000. All right, and this one's 15,000, and your numbers are about maybe as high as 20,000 so far. Okay, so this gives you a comparison, how we can compare the various countries to this. But just remember, like I said, that the x-axis changes from plot to plot. Now, what about deaths by day? Because those are cases. Okay, same situation. The x-axis changes. These are deaths for the countries in the EU with 9 to 12 million, with a population of 9 to 12 million. So now you can see this here. You can see everybody was struggling, and everybody in Sweden is struggling with close to 120 cases for a single day back here, first part of December. Let's see. But Belgium had even more cases than Sweden, and Austria is pretty much matched. Sweden is more than Sweden also with 150 cases. as did Czechia, have 150 deaths back here. And Hungary has already passed the 150, maybe the 155 mark here. So let's try this report one more time for the top, make sure we didn't miss anything. Okay. This gives us again the better idea, the better shape of the data. Okay. Continue to climb, but again, these are these don't represent actually individual day numbers. These represent 14-day moving averages. So it'd be the so if this is so that would mean this number there is actually the average number of deaths or cases for the previous 14 days. But what it does, as you can see, it cuts through all this volatility here, right? Cuts through all this volatility, which is more important than the actual numbers in this case. Here, once again, you can see the steady climb up in deaths. What's interesting is, if you look at a 14-day moving average, these numbers here are actually below this here, which is kind of curious. It's probably has something to do with all this volatility right around in here. Okay. Weekly cases, like I say, last week's cases are the fourth lowest case in 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Last week's cases were the lowest number of cases, weekly cases, for the previous 6 weeks. And last week's deaths was the lowest number of deaths of the previous 4 weeks. Okay, so that's a bit of good news. That's a bit of good news. But of course, the other point is December's already had you already had that with 4 days ago. December has the most number of cases for any month in Sweden so far. And at this point, it looks like deaths will be the second most deaths for for Sweden in any month so far. And this here says, plot of total cases and deaths for country between EU countries with a population 9 to 12 million. So what this tells us is, among these countries of this population range, Sweden has the second most cases. Okay. Now once again, we look at the total cases by day. These are the 6 countries in question. So we get an idea of what's exactly going on with how we can kind of visually compare Sweden's numbers to other countries. But again, I will point out that the y-axis varies. As you can see, 0 to 7,500, 0 to 5,000. So okay, so that's just so we get the full shape of the plot here. Okay. Anyway, so you can look at Sweden here and say, well, Sweden had about 17,500 cases back here in the first week of December. But Greece is over 3,000 cases. Okay. Czechia has around 15,000 cases way back here in November, and so forth. This just gives kind of a visual reference. Okay. Now here's the same thing again with deaths. So you can see deaths. Interesting enough, most of these other cases, like look how close the shape of some of these curves are. But Sweden had 2 spikes. Okay, you had 2 spikes in Sweden. With death spiking, it looks like maybe it's the first week in December, around 120 for a single day high. Okay, so anyway, so that's the picture for Sweden for now. And I just want to remind you again, ask you again to click on that share button and share the link with your friends and family and neighbors. Share it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever social media platform you're on. Share the link to this report so they can also get some encouragement, because there is encouragement in this video if we look for it. Okay. And secondly, if you click on the description button, you're also going to see a link that says "Buy me a cup of coffee." I'd appreciate if you click on that link and buy me a cup of coffee there. All right. Okay. Thanks so much for your time, Sweden. Again, I want to thank all you people in Sweden who've been 22 people. One thing I want to thank all 22 people who who have been faithfully following this report for the last couple of weeks. I'll continue to update it for you. Any specific requests for data or reports, be sure to include that in the comments below also. Thanks so much for your time, Sweden. We'll catch you in a few days.